What's up, everybody, and welcome to Touching Tornadoes. My name is Conrad, and how are you, buddy? Oh, they say the third time's the charm. I hope so. This will be the third time I've tried to record this, but the problem is each time I try to record it, I start giving too much context into what's going on, and then I'm like, wait a minute, what am I doing here? So I'm starting it that way right now. But I've taken a couple weeks here and really been diving into other people's stories and other people's journeys through their diagnosis. Because as I start feeling more and more like myself, which has taken a long time, since basically May. I think I was diagnosed even earlier than that, but May, let's just call it May. Then there was this crash that happened and this deep depression that happened and this loss of identity that happened. And so being told that I had this bipolar disorder, at first it was welcome. It was like, now there's an explanation for what's been going on, and over the past couple of years, and possibly before that, but for sure the past couple of years. But then once that sunk in and once medication started and therapy started, it really opened up this whole universe of self-discovery. And it's odd because not only, it's like, even if you don't have a mental disorder, even if you don't and you're completely good, if you start diving into self-discovery, you're going to go through a transition of yourself anyways, So somebody that's completely neurologically fine, in the clear or whatever, it has no disorder, no symptoms. I don't know I think everybody's probably got something, but you know what I'm saying? Like, basically, good. Somebody's basically good. If you start diving into going to therapy and just diving into self-work, it's going to still put a new paradigm on your life. So I had not had any history with any of that kind of stuff. And so it seemed like the further I was going in to that kind of work, I didn't know who I'm supposed to be, because now I'm not trying to fix the old me, because the old me wasn't me for a while. It's like that one's erased. And so I'm trying to fix somebody who has bipolar disorder, and I don't know what that person's supposed to be like. I know it's just supposed to be me. And it's, the further I've gotten away from May, the further I've gotten away from really the deepest part of a depression, the more I feel like myself again. So it's like, okay, I can be myself, and I don't have to abandon every part of me that I used to be, which for a while that's what you feel like. At least that's what I felt like. And so I guess what happens is I've built on that and felt more and more like myself, and you get more and more like yourself, and then you start thinking like, well, your baseline, and you start questioning whether you even have it, whether you even have the bipolar disorder. Or if it's something that you can treat and fix without medication. If it's something like, how does it just hit me at 38 years old that I have this? These questions are going through my mind, and that's where I was saying, like, spending a couple weeks revisiting other people's stories reminds me, like, oh, this can happen at any time. And when I listen to their stories, it also makes you feel like you're not alone, like, oh my God, it makes me remember and compare myself to these other people. And even though sometimes those stories can be some wild stuff, it makes you feel like you know, because what happens, at least what happens to makes you feel like you have a community or whatever. You have other people who've been through it and know what you've went through. Because there's this whole side, and it could be guilt, it could be shame, whatever it is, that you feel once you get. To me, like once I got out of the depression and I started feeling like myself again, you start looking back like, could I have stopped it? Could I have controlled it? Could I have prevented this stuff from happening? And it's like, well, maybe you could have. Possibly, if I hadn't have drank, if I hadn't have taken CBDs, if I hadn't taken the two at the same time, would I have not had this thing? And I don't know. And that makes you think, because since then since May, I haven't done those drinking or CBDs or anything. And it's like, maybe that's all it was. But then I listened back to these other people and I realized, dude, it was the stress. It was all these things combined. It was the perfect storm and it just blew up. And it is real. It's just, you almost try to convince yourself that it's not real. But listening back and going through other people's journeys and, searching for people's stories and just learning like the similarities that they had and I have with this disorder and how it manifested in them and me and the symptoms and the behaviors and all that stuff that had happened to them. It's cathartic in a way, but it also it cements or re-cements the part where it's like, okay, this is something. So it still sucks because you still feel the guilt and the shame of the stuff you put other people through and the stuff, and you still feel like almost like the trauma of the thing that you've been through, especially when you find out. That's where it's hard too. It's like once you can reconvince yourself, once I can reconvince myself that I have the disorder, then it's like, man, this is crap. That sucked going through then. Why do I have to go through that? That kind of thing. Because it is traumatic. Like, if that's not how I'm supposed to be, if that's not normal, if that's part of a disorder, then that sucks. So, but I'm also not the only one, and it could be worse and all this other stuff. It could be a lot worse. So, anyways, I've been going through their stories is what I'm saying. So, and I don't know how much I wanted to share on my own. Like, one of the things that I've been thinking about when going through kind of this, I guess, journey of recovery, this journey of self reflection or whatever, I don't know however you want to phrase it, but I'm trying to, because when it happened to me, when I had my first manic episode, and this is probably where I should have started the podcast, but when I had my first manic episode, it started as, I remember getting, and it could have been a panic attack. It could have been, those are things that I'd never had before, at least to the degree that I'm about to describe. But feeling like a bolt of lightning went through me, went through my head, split me when I was standing in the kitchen on the second day of our grand opening of our restaurant, and just standing there. I mean, in the middle of working, in the middle of shuffling orders and getting things out, and frantically trying to keep everything going. Bolt of lightning, like, jarred me to where your knees are jello. I'm about to faint. Like, that much of energy went through me all at once, and I had to like steady myself and reopen my eyes and like almost feel like, what the hell just happened? And then got through the evening, but that moment was like the trigger. That moment was the switch that got flipped. That was the breaker that got blown. And from there, the way that my mind interpreted the following days, the following weeks, the following years was not right. Like, was not always, I can't say there weren't times where I was somewhat okay, because there were times when I was calm and recovering, but I wasn't being treated, and that's no one's fault. Nobody knew how to do it. Nobody knew what was going on totally. Nobody knew how. There wasn't a place to take me. But my behavior didn't change that night. But over the next few days, and as it escalated, my manic, just another manic moment, dude. Just another manic. It started then. And so how it escalated on that first mania for me was basically after the lightning bolt went through me. I remember that's kind of when the no sleep feeling started, and meaning started not needing it as much. So the energy started ramping up, and it felt like I all of a sudden had all these answers that were just flowing to me. I couldn't stop them. All these ideas about the way the world worked, about the way where I fit in the world, where everything fits in the world, how everything works. And they're just coming to me, and you couldn't get any rest. But what also happened was, my wife's battery had died on her car this evening, and so I was making sure that she's good. But that's when it started. I got hit by lightning, metaphorically, and that was the trigger for my manic episode to start ramping up. Then it was the lack of sleep and the no need for sleep and my energy rising, my heart rate rising, these thoughts coming, these ideas coming, the flight of ideas that just wouldn't stop. And this culminated, though, into a few kind of moments also that happened while manic. And So, one, we're trying to open a restaurant and everybody's stressed and nobody knows what to do, meaning we don't know. Like we're flying by the seat of our pants anyways. So, it's hard to kind of it just was hard. Because at times the mania, the that energy, that stuff would help come up with answers, come up with like, let's just do this. But as it escalated, as it got more and more, that didn't help anymore. Got worse and worse. And that's when and I didn't know what was going on. So what happened is at one night, I'd come home from basically I thought I had like this secret to how money worked and how the universe worked and all this different stuff, right? I thought I had got this secret. And I wanted my partner, my cousin, Shannon, the partner with the podcast, the partner with the food truck and the restaurant. I wanted him to take me to the casino. And like, mind you, neither of us get any sleep because of opening this restaurant and because of that, like the high stress and the high intensity of a grand opening, all this stuff. There was no good reason to go to a casino. And my timelines might be mixed up on things. It's just how my brain has kind of put it back together. But the reason I'm telling this story is for a point. I wanted him to take me to the casino, and I had some money, I had too much money in my pocket to go try to prove this point to him, which didn't work out. Just lost all the money. But I was like so confident that it was going to work, and like the system to win on these slot machines and how much money you had to put in. And if you put enough money in all at once and then, bet a certain way, you're going to win. It's just going to happen. And the odd thing is at times it would work. So there is like confirmations that can happen throughout this. That's what's also tricky about this whole situation is even though you get delusional and when you go into psychosis, or for me, I get delusional and I got, delusional would be the best. I was saying there's another D word I thought maybe just for, but that's not what I want. So for me, got delusional, but sometimes even in your delusions, things work. Things make sense, or the weirdest thing happens with it. So, anyways, just to stick with this one story, I lose the money, but I'm trying to explain to him, and I'm just spewing it all out. But we're both exhausted, and he's giving me a ride back, and I got a real craving for fish sandwiches at the time for whatever reason. That was an odd thing too. I'd never been like a guy that ate fish sandwiches, but all of a sudden I was into fish sandwiches, and I hadn't even been eating. That's another thing that happens when you're manic, and it happened to me. Like, I don't even know. We'd been running this restaurant, had all this food, and I hadn't even been eating. I'd been exercising still, but not to like a normal person's exercising, like really pushing myself, and then going into work to run this restaurant. And then, so I'd make him take me to the casino. Even when that happens, I'm like real worried about things. I'm telling him like there's a storm coming and all this stuff. And we go, I lose. I'm trying to spew this information about the universe to him. He's trying to follow along with it. And we stop and get a fish sandwich at Whataburger at like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, whatever time it is. And he drops me off. And when I get home, my daughter wanted to go. I walk in and she comes out of her room and wants to go sleep with mommy. Okay. And so she goes and sleeps with mommy. I said, can I sleep in your bed? And she said, yeah. And so I go up and I'm going into her room and I'm sleeping in her bed. And I have this. See, that's where I screw everything up. I got like 2 or 3 nights that are bad that get kind of mixed up as I try to remember in what order they happened. Because there was a night where, and I thought it was on that night, but there was a night when I had got back home late and everybody was sleeping. My wife and kids were sleeping. And I laid down on the couch in the living room and I opened up Facebook and there was this random meteorologist. I don't, that it's kind of like when your phone's listening to you or whatever. I didn't follow this person. They weren't a friend of mine, but they had put a message on my feed. I had got the message on my feed that there was this thing happening in the sky. There was this thing that was never, like, where planets were aligning. They're all going to be in a line, like a parade of planets. I have no familiarity with anything astrology. I mean, up until this point, up until that night, one of the reoccurring bits on our old show was that, I didn't even believe in space. I thought it was all made up. That's the joke, that the moon landing, not just the moon landing, but the fact that it's all just made up, that they're hanging out in New Mexico telling people they're on Mars, that's just an illusion. And as a joke, I mean, I don't know. And to me, I would get so adamant that it doesn't exist that's why it would be the joke. Any kind of evidence to say otherwise, I would argue with some sort of nonsensical thing to be funny, just to try to keep the bit going. So I got no familiarity with astronomy at all, like the constellations, any of this stuff, until that night. Because what happened is somebody had said, like, Venus and Jupiter are in a perfect alignment with the Earth, and you can see them both. And I was like, okay. And then I'd hit that message, and one of the first comments was like, not only is those planets in line, but all these planets, 6 of the 8 are in line tonight, or I don't know how many there are. 7 of the 8 in our solar system are in a line tonight. And this doesn't ever happen. It's real rare or something. So I clicked on it, and it took me to this damn application, this on your phone, where it shows you all the constellations, and it's really a cool thing, probably. But for the state of mind that I was in, and thinking that the universe was giving me all these answers anyways, it was like trippy. And so it hypnotized me, basically. And the mixture of having a manic episode, meaning you don't need sleep, looking for answers, and discovering astrology, like, in the same evening, shit is crazy. Crazy coincidence. Like, this is perfect. This will fit perfect. Like, God was just saying, like, oh, you manic? Okay, here you go. Boom, learn about the constellations. You don't want to sleep anyways? Here's something you can think about. Boom. Where do you fit in this galaxy? Choo, right in the forehead. And so this keeps me going. And so, yeah, this happened first. That finding that message that meteorologist put and seeing those plants, that happened. That was one of the, and I think it all had that. This whole thing happened that same night. So what? No, maybe not, but it doesn't matter. Because what kind of ended up happening is am like hooked on this thing up until the point where I fall asleep, basically, finally, which not much sleep. But now it's like I have this app on my phone. I have this new information. And my brain is already searching for synchronicities and coincidences and things that are happening. And the odd thing is, like, when you start thinking, though, you can almost make it happen. You can almost make the correlation of these things happening. You can not manifest them, but you'll find the relation. Like, to the narrative, whatever narrative in your head is going on, I would find something else that was going on and be like, but see, this is happening. And if this is happening, it's because of this. And you could, if you were good at enough, you could almost, it was too weird not to work. It was too weird not to be true. And it was weird. But to me, what it felt like had happened after I'd found this is that night that we went to the casino, and so I might have already had this on my phone. I may not have. It might have been all on the same night. Doesn't matter. When I finally fell asleep, it was like I died. I felt like I died. And even up into leading to this evening, the night that I got hit with the lightning, like when I would say I got hit by lightning and that's what it felt like when this whole thing triggered, that felt like I died. That felt like I died standing up, and my body, like my spirit, was hit by lightning, and then it felt like I was just like wobbling, and all of a sudden a new spirit hit me. It was still me, but I got something saved me from falling down. My old me died and a new one come in, is how it felt. And it freaked me out from that moment. Like, standing there, I told my wife about it, told Shannon about it, my cousin, partner. I told everyone, that my father-in-law, about it. Like, dude, this happened. It felt like this happened. It felt like I died. I don't know how to explain it other than that's how it felt. And so maybe a week later or 2 weeks, when this night after the casino happens, and this app, which, now, because I'm traumatized by the whole time period of my life, that whole time period of my life, and my wife's, like, this whole thing gives us, makes the hair on your neck stand up, because, like, oh boy, like, but I want to be able to process this and get it out and kind of try to be able to understand what happened, and so I can't change that it did happen, and I don't want to feel the guilt and shame that it did happen, and it did happen to me, and it was real to me, and then my behavior and my actions and all that stuff after were real to those around me. So there's a big part of me that wants to like hide it all and just move on and never bring it up again. I think some people would prefer I did that, but there's also this other part of me that's like, I keep listening to these other people's stories and I want mine. Like, I don't have anybody to, I have people that empathize. Even my wife's empathetic, but she doesn't want to relive this moment. I don't have somebody that's went through it, on the side of actually having it happen in their mind. I have the people that went through it that observed me going through it, which I've never been around somebody so I don't know how they feel. So anyways, if I'm jumping around, I'm sorry. I used to be good at this, doing a show. And hopefully I'll get good again. But so I got this damn app on my phone, and it's the constellations, all this stuff. And I've already felt like I died. That's right now, at that moment at least, that was my mindset, that I had died and the spirit had come back. My spirit, my soul is what it felt like, had come back and saved me, like jumped out of me and right back in. And I'm still standing there. And this changes your whole perspective. If you think you've died, or if you have died, I mean, I guess people have died and come back to life, there's all kinds of stories about that. And mine's when those people describe it, that's also similar. And I'll get into that. That's what I wanted to get to a little bit. But, so get back, I get back from the casino that night where I lost all this money and thought I had like some secret to the universe. It didn't really matter to me. Like, the consequences of it didn't matter because, again, I'm going off of the basis that I've died and there's a reason I'm back, and I'm kind of searching for that reason at the time. Like, I died and I come back, but why did I come back? It's got to be maybe it's to do this. I found this secret, or I know this thing. Anyways, when I go to sleep that night, I have this dream, and it's this mixture of a lucid dream and also like reality. Okay. So I was never fully asleep totally because I had fallen asleep or whatever kind of asleep with these headphones on. I had these headphones on, the ones that like, they're called them like bone conductor, where they're not actually in your ears, but you can still hear it. And the headphones, they were just, all it was playing was this soundtrack to this app. So I'd been looking at this app. I was like, holy crap, look at this, I die, I come back, this crazy astronomical anomaly is happening where all these planets are aligned, all the stars are aligned, they're pointing directly at my taco shop, my cousin and I's taco shop. Like, that was odd too, where as you're driving Route 66 and you come around this bright star, there's like this arrow pointing to our shop. And maybe that's not how it looked to anybody else, but to me, that's exactly how it looked. Like, dude, talk about a sign from the heavens or something, where the planets have lined up and created a pointer to where this place, your flagpole. So I'd been looking through there and just, you get lost in that thing because you can search, you're basically like some sort of spaceship and you're roaming around, looking at constellations, and you can look at them like through like a satellite's view or through, it's just, it's a wild application. But I had noticed this frickin', I thought a satellite, this orb that was in the app, and I click on it, catch it, and it was this mirrored ball. There's only one. Like, there's satellites all over in this app, and you can click on them. Elon Musk's Skynet crap is floating around out there, and all this stuff's still trippy, but this one ball spotted, and it was a mirrored ball. And what it is like some Japanese thing where in 1986, which just happens to be the year I was born, all of these, that's where your brain starts putting all this crap together, where it was trying to like see if you shot a laser out there, if it could bounce it back, or I don't know. But it was all mirrored, which to me, I also related to, we had our whole kind of gimmick thing was that we had an Airstream trailer that we'd polished into a mirror. And so I'm manic. I get back from a casino where I think I have some sort of secret to how you win on slot machines and money works. And I haven't slept or ate. And then I finally had a fish sandwich. My daughter, when I get home, says she doesn't feel well and lays down with my wife. I lay down. This meteorologist tells me that all the planets have aligned. I open this app and I find a mirrored ball that I'm connecting to, like, that's created in the same year I was created. And, you can click on each item and it's got descriptions of what it is. And it's just weird how it all kind of, your mind is searching for connections, and then the universe is giving you connections that will work for you. And so I have these freaking headphones on. I think I've died a week before, and I'm living now somehow this new, I'm me, but I'm not. And I lay down with the headphones on with all this new astrological information in my head. And I kind of have this half in, half out dream. And meaning it felt when I would fall asleep like I got lifted up into the cosmos, into this universe, into our universe. And I was like, it started with like my life, everything, my whole life leading up to that point. Like I had to relive all these moments. And instead of where I was lifted into the cosmos, there was these stars around me. And these stars were my family or important people in my life. And I have a big family. I have 7 siblings. And so like this being, this God, this thing that lifted me up from, I was in my daughter's bed because she was in my bed, lifted me up from my daughter's bed and was like showing me around. And it was like I could piece together. It's almost like I was the center of a clock, and certain people in my life were these different stars or different parts of my life. So like the sun, my wife and I were in the middle, and like the sun was my Uncle Tom and the moon was my father-in-law. And like these were the wisdom people in my life. The people I would go to with if I had questions and needed advice. These were the 2 people I would go to. And my older sister was like the designer. She was the artist. She was the creator of all of this universe. And my older brother was the compass. And one of my sisters, like they were all constellations, like these formations of stars that were around us. But I could see them as these celestial beings, like these made up of stars, like gods. Like I could see their souls is what it felt like. And so the soul of my sister was this artist, and my other sister was this courage, because she, the one that had moved away from the family and lives in Colorado, she was the courage. And I had all these attributes, but that's where I got them from. I drew my attributes from my family, like these other members of my life. My younger brothers were like my sword and shield, and my younger sisters were like my heart and my passion, like, so this all was my dream. And it was almost like it made sense to learn all this because of the fact that I'd got hit by lightning and died, and that the stars were pointing at the place I died, my taco shop on Route 66, and the mirrored trailer that we put there. It all made sense to me. When I say I was sleeping, kind of sleeping, is the moment that my phone died, the music stopped in the headphones. And I got up, and I was in a bunk bed. I come down the bunk bed, and I charge it. And I just wait for it to turn back on, and that was enough charge. And I'd go lay back down, and the music would start playing again, and I'd fall right back asleep. It's happened 3 times, or two times, but so 3 like mini sleep dream sessions. So like this first one was like my life leading up to this moment. My second one that I had after that was the people that I couldn't find, like this hell that I was going through. And that was hard. And I even like felt it. I felt there was a moment in that, and looking back, I don't know if I had a seizure or something. There's a moment where, those horror movies where you kind of arch your back and tense up, like you see somebody that's like going into convulsions. I had a moment in that where I half awoke, maybe I dreamt this, I don't know, but I felt like I was being strangled. I felt like those ear things I had on had like wrapped themselves around my neck and were pulling and strangling me. I couldn't breathe. And it was all part of this vision that was happening to me, this of me I was actually searching for my mom. Like I was searching for her. I didn't see her in any of the constellations. I saw my dad. It's like my dad was showing me. All of my family members, it's like they had been there for hundreds of years and already lived many lives. And then they were like showing me, like, do you want to go back? You're here now. You don't have to go back. That's what I mean when I said, like, I felt like I was dead, and you're here. And I was like, I gotta go back. I want to go back. Like, if you're going to go back, I remember that. I remember that very clearly from the dream. It's like, if you're going to go back, it's going to hurt. And it's going to be hard. And the biggest thing it kept repeating is like, you're going to have to do it again. You're going to have to do it all again. That's what I kept getting that message. And then that was when the strangling and choke, I'm going to go back. And then my phone died. And I got up. And I walked down, and I charged it again. I went back and laid down. Now it's like Act 3. This third part of the dream vision thing I was going through. And when I had this happen, this last part, it was like showing me what, and I didn't want it. Like that was another thing. It's like, it like showed me this whole timeline of what my life was going to turn, like basically watching my kids grow up, watching myself through a life that I'm no longer a part of, kind of deal. It's like and it was like the question was being asked to me, how long do you want to see this go? You can watch this whole thing because you've already lived this life. And in my, the way I am, it's like, no, I haven't. I've not done that. I haven't sent my son to college yet, but there's a part of the dream where he was going to play baseball at Oklahoma Baptist. There's a university that was nearby. He's going to go play baseball there. And I seen him in my dream as a 18-year-old or 19-year-old, like baseball player, like college student. But that's what this God or whatever I was envisioning had me, like, you're allowed to watch how all of this goes, to where he gets married, to where your daughter gets married. And it's like, you can see it because you're not part of the timeline right now. It's like, I don't want to see that. It's like, well, it's like I was dead. It's what it felt like. And then all of a sudden it kept saying, like, you sure you want to go back? And I was like, yes, I want to go back. I got to raise my kids. I want to be with my wife. I want to go home. And it was like God took his hand and slammed me on the forehead, just freaking boom, and then I was out. And I couldn't wake up that day. That was when I finally fell asleep. And when I finally woke up, my wife had left me there to go help Shannon at the shop, and she didn't know what was going on, and I didn't know what was going on, and I don't know if I'd only got an hour of sleep or 2 hours, and I drove in. I was like, I'll come in, and then Shannon sent me back home, and I kind of went home and passed out. Then all of a sudden, I woke up, and it felt like I had, actually even crazier, for the shop, we had ordered David Hasselhoff cardboard cutouts. And so, like, I'm laying in this sleep. This is sleep, finally. My kids are there, and they're watching Bob's Burgers. And I'm in the bed, and they're in the bed watching Bob's Burgers. And a knock on the door, like slam on the door. And what it was somebody dropping this gigantic box off on the door. And it woke me up. I was like, what the heck was that? And I get up and I open the door, and there's this big box. And I was like, what is this? Like, and especially after the nights I've been having, I'm in Mania, and I open it up, and it's damn David Hasselhoff cardboard cutout. And it was like, oh my God. And it made so much sense. It was crazy, man. And I don't know if I envisioned if this happened. I think it did. I'm not sure. My daughter, we had this butcher block paper, this big roll of butcher paper. And at some point, so after David Hasselhoff showed up, I finally, it's like I was manic again. Or getting my energy back. I was like, I got to go run. Because I had been on this streak of running, and I wasn't going to miss a day, and this would have been the day I should have missed or could have missed, but I now had energy. And so my kid's like, okay, watch Bob. I'm going to go run, and I'll feel better after I run, and then we'll take David Hasselhoff to the taco shop. And I went and ran, and I felt great. And at all the time, I mean, in my quest of running, which is kind of a separate thing, I loved going to the school, whether I'd be in our town in Oklahoma that we lived in, and I'd run bleachers. I had all the energy. I'd run the football field. They had a nice football field, and I'd run around their track, and I didn't feel like there was anything wrong with it, but and then when I would be back at my dad's house every weekend, because I worked still in Kansas, I would run the track there and the stadium, and I liked that. And I guess somebody's always got a screw loose that likes to go run stadiums stairs, but when you also have a screw loose, it doesn't help any. But so I go, and I remember running that day and running the stadium stairs and getting to the top, and this beautiful sunset is going down, and I was like, everything made sense at the time. It's what it seemed like. And I get back, and my daughter had drawn on this butcher block a dead body, like the police outline of one. And she said, and I remember, and this is again, what did this happen? And was it a complete delusion? Even if it was, it happened in my mind. And that's what's odd about this disorder and odd about going through the memories of it. But it was this police outline of a dead body. And she's like, see, Dad, I was like, what is that? She's like, it's a dead guy. But see, it doesn't matter. Once you're dead, you're back. It was like, what? Okay. It was weird. And that was the hardest part, is trying to that was one of the hardest parts, is deciphering these and not knowing what was, if I totally made that up or if it happened, and if it happened, why? Why? But I've ran now, and I feel good, like you do after you go on a 5-mile run. And okay, we got in the car, and I remember driving to the taco shop that night with David Hasselhoff with us, and the stars all pointing at the taco shop, the planets and stuff, and get in there, and there's parking lot is packed, and it's about closing time, getting close, and kicking the door open, and my wife and Shannon and the kid that's helping us, they're all trying to sling things, and I'm walking in covered in my sweats with my kids and David Hasselhoff. I'm like, here he is, we're here, we made it, oh, Elvis on me, Elvis tacos on me, and all this stuff. And it was so weird, though, because it was weird. Things were happening. People, and I don't know if this is what I remember, there was people that showed up at the taco shop saying something called them to go there. Something had told them to go there. A guy had shared with me, he's like, that he's going to go to some concert or see some speaker or something, and had to come shake my hand and meet me too. And I don't know if this didn't happen or it did happen. And that's the part where you're reliving it once you get diagnosed, or once another year goes by of this, not all this extreme. This didn't end in any way that I would have wanted it to, or I didn't know where it was going. At the time, you're just living it, but I guess that's the part I was saying where if your mind is searching for connections, it will find them. But when reality, whether reality is happening, whether the reason our reality was so weird, it was like we were grand opening on Route 66 with this really cool concept. So people were excited, and they didn't know what to think. And we did have a David Hasselhoff cutout. There was this silliness and this whole vibe of stuff. And so lines got weird, man. And whatever that is with the planets aligning, that did happen. And I don't know how often it does happen, but it was strange. And I tried to explain it, but frantically, or not being able to get a breath. And things got weirder after, but that was the first that was one of the first strange things. And I'll get into on another episode, like just other stories of that manic episode. But that basically where I was in my mind at that time as David Hasselhoff enters my life in cardboard cutout form is I had thought that I had died. I'd felt that I had died. And then I had felt that I'd been kind of shown through where I fit in the universe, with my own family being parts of the universe, my brother, my siblings, and my mom and dad, and I had the choice after death to come back, and I chose to come back, and that's kind of where I'm at, but still not knowing what that means for me, or what that means for anybody, or what's going on. But that's where I'm mentally at that time, is that I've come back from the dead and I'm learning things. I'm learning more and more secrets of the universe, or of God, and I'm here to do something with them. But I don't know at that time, and I still, But where I kind of want to end is when recovering. So now, since diagnosed and on my journey of recovery, I'll get to it. Another thing. I'm going to leave it there, and I'll talk about the remainder of it on another episode. So thank you for listening, and I'll be back later this week with part 2 of this. I got to kind of process this. I want to relate it to how the recovery process and their advice still kind of makes it weird. So, with that being said, my kids are back from church, and I'm going to go hang out with them. So, I'll be back soon, and thank you for listening and sharing and watching, and don't let your meatloaf. It happens.